Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. The case that I'm going to be looking into today is a suggested one. It's actually another one off of Unsolved Mysteries. Basically, I watched the episode as well. Like I said, it was suggested to me to do it a couple of weeks ago, but I haven't actually got around to doing it yet. So then I watched the episode and I just found it very, very interesting. And really heartbreaking too. It is the Beaver County Beaver County Jane Doe case. We still have no clue who this woman is and how what happened to her ended up happening to her. Let's jump in. I would like to take you to the 12th of December in 2014. Now, a teenager was walking down this road in Pennsylvania and he was walking through the woods down this like country road to get home. The road was actually called Mason Road and he's just walking on by and then he spots something pretty horrific that no young teenager would ever want to see, and it was less than 50 feet away from the road. I'm not quite sure like how he spotted it. It wasn't very far away, clearly, but yeah, he spots this and he approaches it. It is a human head of a woman. Yeah, I said that. You've got that right. It is a human head of a woman. It was like laid on its side, and it, at the time of finding this head, okay, it was in really good condition. So clearly people are thinking straight away. He rings the police and the police come out, and when they find it, they think that it's only been there for about a week, up to like maximum of 4 weeks, because of how good a condition this head is actually in. What they didn't realize at the time was that the head had actually been embalmed, and that is why it was in such a good condition. Mason Lane is actually quite rural as well. Not a lot of people, it's a cut through to get to certain areas, and not a lot of people use it in that sense. To find a human head there is very unexpected. And he rings the police, like I've already said, and he just sort of in a nonchalant way just says like, I found a human head. Of course, the police do go out, which I have already mentioned. They go out, but they try and look around thinking, well, the body must be somewhere. They're gonna find other pieces. It's not just gonna be this severed head just laying there, but it actually was. They scoured the area and they didn't find any other body parts, just the head. And obviously this head, because they didn't know who it was, would become to be known as a Jane Doe, like everybody normally does who doesn't have an identity yet. They did molds and sketches of this lady by a forensic artist much later on, but I'm going to put up a picture of her now and like describe what she looked like, and then you guys have a better idea. She was described as Caucasian in her 60s. Well, the age range they didn't really know, because they thought she could be in her 60s, but it could be up to like 80s, I think, so it's between that. And actually, a nameless profile lists as possibly between 40 to 80. Now, that is a huge, massive gap. She had waxy skin and curly grey hair. Well, partially grey hair. And the eyes were the most creepiest part about... Well, obviously, the situation is already really haunting anyway. But the eyes... So, her body had been embalmed. And when you embalmed a body, in a lot of funeral homes, they put in eye caps. And it keeps the shape of the eye and it keeps the eyes closed. So, when they opened the eyes, they found eye caps. But then they also found that there was actually no eyes in there at all. But these red rubber bouncy ball kind of things. So they were inside the eye sockets, and then the caps were placed over the top. And then, excuse me, the eyelids were then shut. So this was pretty strange. They actually reached out to loads of different funeral directors and funeral homes, etc., all these different places to find out whether this was a practice that they did, and none of them did it. So obviously it is so strange that this head of this woman was embalmed. So they don't believe that because of that it was foul play, that she probably died of natural causes. And they did actually find, I don't know how they found this out, but I did read somewhere that there was something to do with that she was on 2 sorts of medication, and these medications were an indicator of heart disease. So people have speculated as to whether this lady ended up having, sadly, a heart attack and died naturally. Her body was taken to a funeral home. It was then embalmed. But then, I don't know, someone took off her head and threw it in the woods. I don't know. It's very strange. What they were thinking along the lines of is that at the funeral home they get embalmed, etc., and then they can go off to wherever they're going. So if they're going to get buried, they are put in the casket and then they are driven there. Or if they're going to a crematorium, again, same thing. Maybe the body was tampered with in between that, or something along those lines. It was thought that whoever actually did take her head off, though, knew a lot about the anatomy, and they thought it was done very professionally, very clean cuts across a certain vertebrae. This is pretty gruesome, like a flap. I'm not going to get into too much details. You know what I mean. At the back, I guess, of her head, neck, and it allowed them to access the certain vertebrae that was cut off, which gave stability to the head and skull. I know, it's grim. I know, I'm sorry, but that's just this case for you. Yeah. Like I said, they did do forensic sketches, and they also had a sculpture made, which I've already showed you. I'll show you again, just in case. And they were hoping that they would get, like, people would come forward about this. Now, I did also see, which was in the episode, that there was a family who had... Oh, hang on. Before I get into that, this Jane Doe had a lot of dental work done as well. Lots of dental work. Some teeth had several procedures done on them. Things like that. So you'd think that they could identify her through that, but I guess not. They tried sending off DNA to all this different DNA to all these different places. Nothing came back. But then I also heard that apparently embalming can degrade the DNA. So whether the DNA is just unusable because she's been embalmed, I'm not entirely sure. I don't know how true that is or what. I don't know anything about embalming. So there you go. But there was a desecration of a grave in a different place. I have a feeling I want to say the Garcia family, but that might also be wrong. So just ignore that name if it's wrong. And if it is right, then go my memory. Because I can't remember whose family it was. But this lady passed away in the 50s. She was 70 odd. She actually looked pretty similar. And when her tombstone, what is it called? A crypt? No, that's a bit vampire-ish, isn't it? I don't know what they're called. But like a big family plot where people's bodies go inside of. You know what I mean? Like a building thing. She was in there laying to rest. I don't know if she was behind glass or something. I don't know. I might be making that up. But her grave was desecrated, and they actually took her head. So yeah, they took her head, and then they were thinking, well, is this lady the head that this other county had? They got a photo and the sketches that were done and the artist renditions and looked at it all, and there are some similarities. I genuinely do agree, but which is even more strange just because they look similar. I wouldn't have said it was the same woman personally, and then it was proven to not be the same woman because they looked really into everything and they looked into the extensive dental work that our Jane Doe had, and some of the dental work that she had didn't exist when this other lady actually died. So she died in the 50s, and this dental work didn't exist then. So they know it is not the same person, so that was scrapped straight away. Well, not straight away, obviously they investigated it all, but then they put it to rest that it wasn't actually her. They went down the DNA route, they went down the public route, trying to get people to come in and maybe identify their family member. So now they were going to go down the route of looking into these red rubber balls. One of the detectives on the case actually ended up going to, I think it was a restaurant or something, and you know them little twisty things where you put the money in and you twist it and you get some prize out? Well, he actually looked over to his right, and in a machine there was some red bouncy balls. They looked very similar to what was found in Jane Doe's eye sockets. And they were made in like China, so they even got onto the China embassy to find out if they could find out more information about these red balls. But I mean, they were so mass produced, there was not a cat and mouse chance that they could find anything from that. So sadly, that was a dead end too. They have tried so many things to try and find out who this lady is, and because of the degraded DNA, they've put out a profile as well. But it's like her, if she was reported as a missing person, they could have had family DNA on the database or anything, but nothing matched. I don't know whether that's because of the degraded DNA or what, or because her family never reported her as missing. Because if she passed away due to natural causes, obviously they're not going to report her as missing. And if she was on her way to a crematorium, they would never even know that her head was missing, because then they burn the body, get the ashes, spread the ashes, do whatever they want with the ashes, and so they would have never even known. They did do isotope testing though, which did show where our Jane Doe lived in the last sort of moments of her life and where she'd moved out throughout. And she spent the last 7 months moving between Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Maryland, and New York, so a lot of places. It's thought that she most likely grew up in West Pennsylvania, not far from like Beaver County, just south of it, I think. Now, I just want to put it out there is no foul play suspected in her case, but it's just so interesting and really sad that, like, to try and Jane Doe cases, a lot of them you just want to find their identity. So it's not a case of trying to find who killed her because they don't even think that she was murdered. It's a case of trying to find out who she is and why her head ended up there. In the documentary on Netflix, there was some things said about a neighbor who came out. I believe when the police, he lived close by, he came out and he spoke to the police and did an interview, but he didn't really have much to say, just his opinions. He actually blamed the 15-year-old lad who found the head, but it actually came out that they had history. They knew each other, but then something happened to one of his horses that he absolutely adored, and it turned out that this horse was attacked, and he blamed the boy, I guess, so he called ties with him. So there was a lot of speculation, this is more theory territory now, as to whether he actually planted this head and whether it was his mother, because apparently there were similarities to his mother who had passed away, and he planted the head to try and get this boy in trouble. We'll never know that though, because a long time after, even though he denied it, he took a polygraph as well, right? And I don't believe in polygraphs, so I'm not putting any sort of stead in this anyway, but it did prove that he was lying in this polygraph test. Then later on, he took his own, you know what I mean? Sadly, by doing a long drop, basically, which is really, really heartbreaking. Even the police who were interviewing him things have said, you know, like, it's so sad that he did that to himself. It always is. Oops. But yeah, there's some speculation around him. There is some speculation around, obviously, a funeral home taking it, but the question is, why on earth would that? Why? Just why? But I guess the question is why for all of it, to be honest. That somebody stole it from a funeral home and then dumped it again. Bye. There's also a big thing which I never knew existed. A big, massive trade in dead bodies, essentially. There's a body part trade, completely legal, which is so freaking wrong. I have never heard of it myself. I did not know it existed. But apparently, funeral directors or whatever can sell off people's body parts, and it's normally to research, not organs, but like heads and limbs, and like a head is worth 500 and other limbs are worth other money. Honestly, don't know. And that is really disgusting because a lot of people, they put their trust in funeral directors and they entrust them with their loved ones to see them off and do them right, and then they're selling off their body parts. It's just gross. But yeah, maybe that's another theory. Basically, I'd like to know what you guys think. Not only that, I would really love it if, I don't know, we could get who she was, because she deserves her name back. She has a name. She is a someone, or was a someone, and nobody has any clue as to who she is for what, 10 years now? Almost? Yeah, almost 10 years. Nobody knows her. She's just the Beaver County Jane Doe, and strange ass circumstances that surround her head being recovered. It's just really sad. Oh yeah, my biggest hope for this is that we get a name out of it, and I truly hope that one day that is going to happen. But yeah, that's the end of the case. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for similar content if you would like to, and I guess I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.